And we are back here on Patriots 4th and 2. I am your host today, Derek Havens, and joining me, as always, is Mr. Steve Balestrieri. We are both PatsFans.com bloggers. Today's episode, we'll be talking about what happened during the Patriots bye week. A lot of talk about some of the other teams to monitor for draft picks. We have some comments from Trent Brown, which certainly have some people buzzing. Also give our predictions for what's going to happen with the team down the stretch. And as always, preview the upcoming game versus the New York Giants. Before we get into that, I want to say, Steve, how are we doing today, man?
And there's never a dull day in Patriots land, right? So we're doing good, getting ready for Thanksgiving. And to all our listeners and readers out there, thank you very much for sticking with us. And happy Thanksgiving to all of you.
Yeah, good note. Absolutely. And we appreciate everyone who's kind of checked in on us the last few days. I know our schedule's been a little weird this last couple of weeks here, but, we'll be navigating the scheduling waters over the holiday season. I know we're doing the show almost, about 8 hours or so-ish later than we normally do. So I'm sure we probably will catch some people off guard when we get this posted at a later time. But rest assured, we're still here. We're still doing the same thing we've been doing for the last decade plus. So anyway, Steve, look, I don't know where you want to start. I guess I kind of want to start with, what happened with games last week, because, the Patriots ended up staying with the third overall pick. I'm not saying, I'm going to preface this whole mini segment by saying, I'm not saying you need to root for the team to lose or anything like that, but it is interesting. The Cardinals, unfortunately, weren't able to pull it out. The Bears somehow let the Lions come back after being up 12 with 4 minutes to go. But we are all Tommy DeVito fans here in the New England area, and we're hoping that he continues his hot streak coming into this week, if you're rooting for a higher draft pick, of course. But Steve, some movement here. I know it's only November 22nd, and the draft is not for months, but at the same time, if the team is 2-8, this is something to pay attention to down the stretch. You don't have to root for the team to lose, but I do think it's interesting to kind of monitor where they're going to fall, because they could be looking at their next franchise quarterback, one of the more generational prospects at a skill position, or maybe go ahead and draft that blindside blocker at one of the tackle positions, which they desperately need as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's no shortage of places they could go with their first round pick, and I think at this stage of the game, where the way they keep losing and they can't score any points, there's still 7 weeks left in the season, but I think would be disingenuous if we didn't say we're keeping an eye on draft selections at this point.
Sure, absolutely. And this game, this game coming up, Steve, we're going to be talking about more than likely during the draft season.
Yeah, and this time of year we're usually talking about playoff seeding, or if they going to be able to make the playoffs, or
it's a different path this year, Steve. It's not path to the postseason; it's path to number one overall, which I don't think they're going to get to. But
now we're talking: are they going to be picking number 3 or number 1? So
yeah, different. I guess different waters than we're used to. But did you watch any of the games over the week? Were you just flipping on Red Zone? Were you tied up? What'd you end up doing?
No, I stuck with Buffalo and the Jets because I was curious to see how that one played out. I watched the Kansas City Philadelphia game.
Man, I'll tell you, the receivers for the Chiefs did Patrick Mahomes no favors there.
They did not. And it was strange because the Chiefs really dominated that game. But the longer that game went on, and it was still, even into the fourth quarter, it was only 10 points, and you had the feeling it was more than that.
Yeah.
And I was thinking to myself, all Philly needs is one play, and they might steal this football game, and that's exactly what they did.
I was impressed with the Chiefs' front seven, too, especially early in that game.
Yeah. I thought both defenses played very, very well. The Eagles shut the Chiefs out in the second half, albeit, we were just mentioning that, some of the wide receiver drops were just, you cringe. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But nobody would shed a tear if it was New England. So I'm not shedding any for Kansas City, that's for sure.
No, but the receiving core there is certainly weak, and
Yeah,
I think they probably knew it was going to be a little bit of a struggle, maybe some kind of a reset year from a financial standpoint. You do still have some good players on that offensive side of the ball, of course, with Travis Kelce there. So I wouldn't necessarily call it the '06 Patriots, receiving core, but at the same time, you know, as two people who saw the team, and I know finances are part of it, I get it, but like as two people who watched a team have those reset years with a quarterback in their prime, it's tough to watch. I mean, look, I'm not rooting for the Chiefs to keep winning Super Bowls, but when you have someone as talented and playing at the level that Patrick Mahomes is playing, and you see the receiving core they put around him, I'm sure that if you listen to Chiefs sports radio, there'll be some complaints thrown
yeah.
at the front office.
And there should be. I mean, we saw this. We saw it in 2006, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we saw it again in 2000. Was it 12 or 13? Where they just put really poor players around Tom Brady, other than one or two guys. And what we saw happen when they played really good teams, as like the Patriots, somebody would take away Rob Gronkowski. Or Julian Edelman, and on the times Gronk was hurt, and they're seeing that if somebody can take away Kelsey, then they're forcing the Chiefs to beat them with substandard guys for Andy Reid offense.
Yeah, and look, I agree with that. I know we're not, we're a Patriots show, so I don't want to go too long on this, but I am kind of curious about two teams around the Patriots that are technically ahead of them now, which is the Chicago Bears at the number 1 overall pick and the Cardinals. Look, watching the Cardinals the last 2 weeks, they were already playing, I would say, very, they were putting up a good fight, playing competitive without Kyler. Kyler's come back and he's looked pretty good, to be honest. And I know his contract is going to be really hard to get rid of. I'm thinking more and more the Cardinals probably won't take a quarterback. And then Justin Fields, on the other hand, look, I get it. He hasn't played to the level you want him to play. And certainly I'm sure all front offices will have their opinion on the top, consensus quarterbacks and who they like. But man, watching that game and seeing him make a couple of progressions, and kind of making some improvement, you could literally give him a blue chip left tackle and a blue chip receiver, and to pair him up with what they already have, you could actually put some pieces around him and see if he could sink or swim. Now, I don't think they'll do that. I think that they'll ultimately take a quarterback. But if the Patriots were to pick 3, Steve, I don't think it necessarily rules them out of the Caleb Williams or Drake May conversation, as those two are the consensus quarterbacks, roughly. I would say if they're at 3 and the Cardinals are ahead of them and the Bears are a question mark, Cardinals, I think they still have an outside shot at the quarterback. And I know people are curious about that.
Yeah. And there's still a long way to go for that too, right?
It's going to be a long way.
Perspectives will change 3 times between now and then, if not more, right? So right now everyone's talking, Williams or May. That might change by, bowl season, right? We've seen it happen before. One of these guys might fall, right? So if you're asking me today who I want for the Patriots quarterback, if they're going to take one in the first 3 of picks or whatever, I would go May. If you're asking me today, that might change, right? But if you're asking me today, I would definitely go May. I kind of like him better, and I'm just kind of leery about Williams' mental toughness.
I would say too, it might depend on who the coach is.
Yeah, that's true too.
If it's Bill Belichick and you have Bill O'Brien here, I think Drake May makes more sense than someone like Caleb Williams. If it's, if they're going to run the same kind of offense, which is, you talk about structure and, going through progressions, and it's a little different. I think that May would make more sense than someone like Caleb Williams. If Bill was going to stay, if he's not the quarterback, I think you have a different conversation. I still think Caleb Williams is the best, but I don't see how you can't be more concerned with him or have more questions about him at the very least than you did at the beginning of the season. And I'm not too worried about necessarily, the losses that they've had or whatever. I mean, UCLA beat the bag out of him and he still had some killer throws. But I mean, there's pros and cons about every guy in this class. Like Michael Penix has great arm talent, but the injuries scare you. Bo Nix is a little bit older and you worry about certain things, but he's a gamer, man. Like, you see the progressions. Jaden Daniels, talk about another guy who's gotten better every single year, but he's like 180 pounds soaking wet. So you worry about that, but it is early for that. Anyway, I wanted to start off the show by, look, I know a lot of people were talking about, or kind of watching, just having a quote unquote red zone day, which I did over Sunday. And so I would be lying to say that I haven't been paying attention to those other teams around you, because, hey, if the Patriots are going to do bad, I would like them to at least be rewarded with as high a pick as possible. If they end up at the end of the day, it's going to be, hey, the chips are going to fall where they may, but we still have months to go. But it's worth noting. I do want to get to some of our predictions for the team down the stretch, Steve. Kind of just talk about this back half of the season before we get into the Giants. I guess we should talk about the Trent Brown situation. You have the story pulled up?
Yes. About
okay,
him, he went off about him being late, and Albert Breer said that Brown is habitually late to meetings, and Trent Brown had this to say. You want me to read it to you?
Sure.
That's bull hockey. You know the other word I'm going to use, right?
Yeah, you could.
It's a bunch of bull hockey. I'm never late. Honestly, I'm one of the first ones in and one of the last ones out of the building. If I am late to any meetings or anything, it's because I'm a grown man and I should be allowed to go to the bathroom, especially if it's in between meetings and I'm trying to go to the bathroom, or if I'm trying to grab something from the training room to be healthier and prepare for practice. It's a lot of bull hockey.
And, he
said it several more times. So,
oh yeah, he was pissed. He had people, he was talking about people that were critical of his play.
Oh yeah,
and he said F him. Honestly, truly, F him.
Yeah, so, F him. Truly, F him.
Look, I'll say this about Trent Brown. I think overall he's been, more often than not, very serviceable to even really good, especially during that Rams Super Bowl year, where he was terrific. When he's bought in, he is a very good left tackle, especially in the league today, where it seems like so many teams have offensive line issues. For Brown, to me, Steve, it's the continuing, I don't think he's milking his injuries this year, but I do think he used his injuries and his position and what he saw around him earlier in the year to leverage into more money, which he did for, and good for him. Players should have the right to do that. And look, the team would be totally lost without him. And I will say this, I said this off air to you before, there's been no less of 8 to 10 reporters, whether they've said it, whether they've wrote it, that have said, you watch him walk through the locker room and he is laboring intensely. And I think he's, putting on a brave face and going out there and doing the best he can right now. I do think it's gotten a little sloppy at times. But look, I think he's one of those guys that you need a lot of support around him, whether that's from coaching, whether that's from other players, because if the team is circling the drain like they are right now, he's one of those guys I don't necessarily feel great about having a big voice in that locker room, because I think he could go the other way.
Yeah. And, in fairness to him, like you said, a lot of the guys that reporting on the team that are down there, they say he can barely walk. when he comes off the field. And I believe that. I mean, he's been battling a couple of different injuries and playing through it. So, with people saying he's not motivated, I'm not sure I buy that because, like you said, when you're 8-2, it's easier to battle through some injuries and play. When you're 2-8, it's very easy to say, you know what, I'm too banged up, I'm sitting out. And he's been playing through this for a couple of weeks. So, the fact that he didn't go on the trip to Germany right behind the bye week, I think that was not him saying I need to sit out. I think it was the Patriots saying, hey, look, take this week off, then you get the bye week, and hopefully you'll be feeling better, before we play the Giants.
So you're saying that you think that they gave him the week of Germany off to help rehab and give him more of a break? So. I think because so too. Then, okay, so we're on the same page.
Yeah, because I just look at it, we've been hearing how he's been just laboring off the field. And if they give him that week off without all the travel, because traveling will make injuries worse because you're cooped up in a, metal tube.
Sure.
And, then you have the bye week. So, I don't have an issue with that at all. I think, if you wanted to sell me on this training camp, I'd be willing to buy it. But, since the season started and he's been out there, I think he's played really well.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, it hasn't been pretty, but it has not been pretty, but he's been there. And I look, I mean, I do think, Joel wrote in, I was trying to pull that up, my computer froze. Joel wrote in, said Trent got his money and lost all motivation. Sad to see. I don't even know, Joel. I don't even know if I would say he lost all his motivation, but I do think he's a money first type of guy. That's his right. And he has won before. And I think at this point, I can look at it and say two things. For one, if I was laboring with injuries and dealing with as much stuff as he reportedly is, and he's going out there and still performing, fighting through the pain, and then people were taking shots at me, I would probably be upset too, because I'm like, hey, I'm working through this. And I do think he's working through some, serious stuff. On the flip side, I also don't think that he's a team first guy. I really don't. I think he put himself first. He leveraged into a new position. I'm not sure he'll be here past this year. And I'm not really sure you want him here past this year, but that'll be a conversation for the off season. Steve, let's go down to predictions for the Patriots down the stretch here. And then we can step aside and take a break and get into this Giants game, which will be almost as big of a matchup they've had against the Giants in a while, except on the opposite end of the spectrum. For the team, Steve, you have the Giants this week. You host the Chargers. You go to Pittsburgh. You go to the Chiefs, to Denver, and finish off with in Buffalo, and then host the Jets. So, you have two more divisional games. You have, you have 6 of your last 7 in conference. So there's a couple of things here that are very interesting. Obviously, this week's game against the Giants, where do you see them realistically ending up from a record standpoint, Steve? Do you feel like they could gain some momentum and squeeze a few out? Do you think that some of these, maybe this first game or two out of the bye, I think could spiral the team in one way or the other? I'm not saying if they win the next 2, they're going to go on like some run. But I think if they were to lose to the Giants and then lose to the Chargers, I think you might see guys start to pack it in.
Yeah. I got an interesting text from a friend of mine because he said, they're playing the Giants this week. 9-8 is still on the table.
Please stop.
And I started laughing, and I was like, well, technically, yes. But realistically, no. I was so bullish on this team at the beginning of the season. I just thought they were going to win 10, possibly 11 games, make the playoffs. Now I'm looking at them, and I'm thinking 5 might be too many.
I don't know if they get to 5, but I can paint like I'm sorry if they beat the Giants this week. I mean, I know the Chargers have a lot of talent, but they look horrible. And
The Chargers are horrible.
and if Aaron Rodgers doesn't come back, they've handled the Jets for years. And you're not telling me they couldn't split one of those other ones? So like I think best case scenario they get to 6 wins. Worst case they stay at 2. I think realistically they land at about 4. To me, I think you have a very good chance of winning this week, and then you'll probably pick, one up against the Jets at the end of the year. So I think 4 to 5 wins is very realistic for this team. I'd be surprised if they went 1-6 down the stretch, Steve. Like I think they're going to win more than just one game. And look, if you're rooting for the number 1 pick, you don't want to hear it, but like if they lose this game versus the Giants, I still would be stunned. I know what we've seen over the last couple of months. I still would be stunned if they lost this game.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, their motive. Excuse me. Their their motivation has to be at an all-time low right now.
Sure.
Just because what's going on, and they don't even know who's the starting quarterback going to be. At least they haven't released that yet, right? Yep. So, and I'm wondering if they're not releasing it because they still aren't sure who they should start. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that kind of gets us into another question that I wanted to ask. Out of the bye, after the break, excuse me. So, again, we're both in agreement. We're thinking they probably end up at the 4-13, 5-12 mark.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
hate saying that, but
yeah, it's hard to have a lot of faith in what we've seen. They have continuously shown and revealed who they are as a team. There's just been no denying it. So anyway, let's step aside here and take a quick break for podcast purposes. When we get back, I'm going to talk to Steve about the Patriots quarterback situation, who should be under center this Sunday, and get into the upcoming game versus the Giants. Okay, and we are back here on Patriots 4th and 2. Again, Derek Havens, Steve Balestrieri. We are both PatsFans.com bloggers. Again, please subscribe to us on YouTube and Apple Podcasts. Like, share, leave us a review. It keeps us high in the podcast ranking so other Patriots fans can find us. Steve, we were just talking about kind of what we think this team's going to look like coming out of this week. Down 7, you have 7 more to go. I think a big question is who starts for them at quarterback, especially this week. Mac Jones has been benched now, going into the bye with a 4-point game, 2 minutes left, and they pulled him. I think in one breath you could say, hey, Bill thinks that he gives the team the best chance to win, so he's going to start. On the flip side, Steve, couldn't you make the case that how do you put him back in that situation after pulling him in that fourth quarter versus Indianapolis last week?
That's a great question because I do think he still gives them a better chance than the other 2 guys. And I don't know if Bill still believes that, but like you said, if you believe that, then how do you justify yanking him or, putting him back in this week? And it's a tough question. From what we're hearing, Jones and Zappi are sharing first-team reps. And if they're not going to start...
He said that he believes it's going to be Will Grier.
Right. But he's not getting any first-team reps.
Right.
So...
we know of.
Right.
So,
yeah.
I don't know.
That's always
put it this way, who do you want it to be?
Honestly, I'd just rather see them ride the season out with Jones.
I would too, because I just don't want there to. I don't think there's really any doubt. I think even the people who've defended Mac Jones to the wall, and I commend you for it, but I think almost even those people have been pretty much broken by the continuous mistakes and the repetitive issues that he's had, and man, how hard he's reverted from his rookie year. I was watching, there were some highlights of his rookie year going around. And look, I know that he had plenty of things to work on. And and improve at after his first season. But his mechanics are a mess. I mean, from right now to where they were 2 years ago, his footwork is horrible. He has no confidence in his arm at all. Not in terms of him physically being able to throw it. We know he doesn't have like a howitzer for an arm, but it's like mentally he's scared when he's throwing the ball not to kind of rip it in there. And we've seen it on occasion. You saw a couple nice passes versus, in his fourth game versus Tom Brady when the Bucs were there his rookie year. You saw that huge play to Kendrick Bourne his rookie year, week 5, that went for a touchdown after a pick 6. There was the Browns play in the end zone, I think, again to Kendrick Bourne. You saw on occasion him being able to do his drop and step into his throw. And you're just really not seeing that right now, Steve, at all. He just looks so unsure of every single thing that he's doing when he's playing on the field right now.
Oh, yeah. That interception, in the end zone there last week or 2 weeks ago, he just short-armed that ball and there was no reason to. And, he was just doubting himself. And I think you said it, in our show last week. It looked like he was trying to pull back the football. And it just kind of went out. And it went out really weak and short. And confident quarterbacks don't do that. They zip that ball in there and it's a touchdown because, the bottom line is the play was open. It was there. I mean, It wasn't like he was trying to thread the needle between 3 different guys. That pass was there. That was wide open for him, and he just didn't.
If they go ahead and roll him out there this Sunday, I think it would be Bill kind of saying, like, look, this is the guy that gives us the best chance to win, and he's rolling with him. Now, I would make the case if he gets pulled again, I mean, at some point, you just got to kind of call it, right? I mean, Mac, to me, on the sidelines, we talked about it a little bit last week, on the sidelines after he got pulled, he looked like he was like holding back tears. And I'm not making fun of him. I think he knew that he made a mistake. It was a bad throw, and he knew that he might not get his job back. And look, it is his professional career. So I get it. I mean, I haven't been a true believer in him for a little while now, and I have my doubts, but it's still sad to see when someone again, like we said last week, I don't think it's an effort issue with him, but at some point there are only 32 of these jobs for true starters, and he's making the same mistakes. So I just think it has to be interesting from a coaching discussion standpoint, not just with Bill, but with everybody, because you could roll Mac out because you think he has the best chance to win, but at some point you have to be hearing some kind of infighting or frustration from the other side of the ball. The defense is out there holding a team to 10 points and they can't get a win. I mean, what else do they have to really do? So I wouldn't mind seeing Will Grier just to see if he could potentially, have some kind of a backup role here moving forward. If you want to roll out Zappy, then so be it. But I'm like you. I think it will be Jones. I'm not sure if it'll be the right decision or not, but I think that I won't be really surprised either way, Steve, because at the end of the day, I know I've said it a couple times, but at the end of the day, Bill is going to do whatever he thinks gives them the best chance to win. There's going to be no other motive in my mind behind it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I still think he does because I really don't think that, Zappy or Greer give them a better chance to win. I just wonder if there's some way they can get this kid's confidence back because it's just awful.
I'm really not sure how you do. I really don't.
I don't know either. I think, he just needs to hit a couple of these passes and,
I mean, it's like a great shooter, to get a guy into a rhythm. They need to see a couple go through the rim. Same thing here. I mean, they need to start out running the ball. I know we're going to get into our 3 keys, but they need to, start out running the ball. They need to get some quick passes, get him going in a rhythm, get him going 4 for 4, 5 for 5, and try to ramp it up slowly. I would like to see something like that. But, as we do get ready to preview our game versus the Giants, give me your opening thoughts on them as a team, where you think they're at. Obviously, Daniel Jones, actually, he had his ACL surgery today, but he's out for the year. You do have Tommy DeVito under center. Last week, I thought they were relatively competitive at times. Saquon Barkley really showed up, and I think the Giants always give the Commanders problems. It's funny how just some teams in the divisions just always seem to always seem to get to them. The Patriots always seem to get to the Jets. The Dolphins always have given the Patriots fit for a long time. Even when Brady was playing with the Buccaneers, it was always the Saints that were a thorn in his side. There's just those divisional matchups, and the Giants and the Commanders have it. But, watching that game last week and really what you've seen from the Giants all season, what's your first impression of them as a team?
Well, their offense is broken too. Tommy DeVito was supposed to be the third quarterback, right? And now he's the starter. I thought he played well last week, given the circumstances. But, their offense is their Achilles heel as well. But Dayball got them fired up last week, and they beat the Commanders. And as you said, they've always kind of had the Commanders' number. Just like I think the Giants traditionally give the Patriots fits, and I'm kind of looking at this game as it's going to be another one of those low-scoring rock fights, and who's going to be able to make a couple of plays. That's what it's going to come down to.
Absolutely. And I could see it going both ways. I was just about to pull up the over-under and the spread. I know that the Patriots were 5.5-point favorites through DraftKings prior to the Giants-Commanders game, and then I saw that line moved to the Patriots favored by 3. Now they have it officially at, let's see, the Patriots are 3.5-point favorites. Over-under is set to 34, which is hilariously low.
Take the under.
I still kind of like the under, Steve. I'm not going to lie. I
take
think
the under.
I think this is going to be a 16-9, 16-13 kind of game. It's going to be interesting to see which team. Obviously, I think in a game like this, points are going to be at a premium because, like you said, both offenses are just falling all over themselves. And so turnovers are going to be huge here too, but they both struggle. The Giants did as much last week with chunk plays, but they really, it takes them a lot to kind of get going. What are your thoughts on the Giants defense?
Yeah, well, I think the first name that comes to mind, right, is Thibodeau. Kayvon Thibodeau is like their edge guy. And, if Trent Brown is out again this week, who you're going to have at left tackle? I thought Connor McDermott played okay. But, I think Thibodeau is going to be the guy to watch on their defense this week because he's going to be going up against a backup left tackle probably. And, another guy, because they've had some issues in the center of the offensive line as well, Dexter Lawrence. So I'm watching those two guys. If they start wreaking havoc on whoever's at quarterback, it's going to be another long day for the Patriots because especially if they're getting pressure up the middle. But, there was a couple of plays last week or 2 weeks ago. I keep saying last week.
We know what you mean.
Where they were hitting Mac Jones at like 1.4, 1.5 seconds. And you can't have that. I don't care who's back there,
right?
And that's the thing that worries me again about this game.
Yeah, definitely a big concern. Dexter Lawrence is playing just outstanding football. I think David Andrews is still a good player. I don't think he's playing at quite the level he was maybe a year or two ago, but I think that you look at a second-year player in Cole Strange, who I think has been below average, and Sidy Sow, who has been doing pretty well by all accounts during the run, but really struggling in pass pro. When you have guys on both sides of you as a center who are struggling or have their deficiencies, it's going to make you, have to kind of cover some more ground, and that's tough to do. So when you have someone like Dexter Lawrence in the middle there, it's certainly a concern, especially with how they've blocked so far. Why don't we get into our 3 keys, Steve? What are your thoughts on how the Patriots are able to win this game?
Well, I think the first key is you have to be able to run the football. I think that's right now, that's the only way, right, that you're going to get this offense moving consistently. I think you have to try to run the football, and you have to trust it. You can't have a couple of good runs and then, get pass happy because, as we all know, the Patriots receivers are not filling us full of goodwill right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my second key is find some receivers other than Demario Douglas that are going to be productive. I mean, Parker's supposed to be back, right? But the bottom line is he's your ex. And other than, I think, week 1, he hasn't caught more than 2 passes in a game. That's just not cutting it. Juju Smith-Schuster, he's hasn't been lighting it up either. So does that mean Keyshawn Boutte or Tyquan Thornton get some play in this game? I mean, somebody's got to be able to catch the football, and they need to find this person, other than Demario Douglas. And, they have to find a way to start getting productive because the passing game is so awful right now. And my third key is Tommy DeVito is the third string quarterback. Don't make him look like Aaron Rodgers out there on Sunday. Force him into making some mistakes. Force him into making some turnovers. That's the only way they're going to win this one.
Yeah, no, a lot of ours are going to be similar. I look at the Giants have allowed 63 sacks as a team, as an offensive line this year, which is just horrible. The Patriots have had some issues getting after the opposing quarterback, and which has been, I think, partially because of the loss of Judon, which I don't think can be understated. And if you look at this matchup, if the Patriots are able to get some pressure on Tommy DeVito, which the Giants have allowed, I think then you're going ahead and you're really shifting the opportunity to get some of those turnovers like we're talking about, which would be my second key. And I think points are going to be at a premium in this game. The turnovers are going to force short fields and kind of set up both poor offenses for putting some kind of points on the board. So if the Patriots are able to actually get some turnovers, another area they haven't been as good in as the past, that would certainly help them as well. And then my last key is just like you started off with, they need to get the running game going early and often and really stick with it. Versus the Colts, they really came out running the ball hard. In the middle of the game, they totally went away from it. I still don't really understand why. They come back to it a little bit late, but it was just it wasn't good enough. And the Giants have allowed the most rushing touchdowns this season and the second most rushing yards, for any defense in the NFL. So they have given up the run plenty of times. I think this needs to be a big day for Ramondre Stevenson and Zeke Elliott. I think both are going to hit pay dirt this week if they win. I think if they win, we're talking about a big ground attack. It probably will be ugly, but I could see them both, I could see them combined, close to 200 yards. If they win this game, we'll be talking about the running game next week.
I agree.
All right.
Prediction
What's your prediction?
Time.
What do you got? We just played the fifth and ended, or what?
16-9. G-Men.
You really think the Giants are going to win this week?
I do.
Give me some.
I just think this offense is just broken. They can't throw the football with any kind of consistency. And, hopefully J.C. Jackson will be back on the field. But they've been giving up some big chunk plays lately. And I worry about the Giants hitting a couple of those, especially with them not able to get after the quarterback. Since Matthew Judon went out, they haven't been good at all at getting after the quarterback. You know, they get pressure, but they don't get sacks, and you need those sacks to help your struggling offense because you need to set the other team back. And
Absolutely.
I don't feel very confident about this group going forward. I hope they prove me wrong this week.
I'm going with a very similar score. I'm going to go 17-13. I do think the Patriots win this game. I'm going to take the cheese again. I've seen what Bill Belichick has done to quarterbacks like Tommy DeVito in the past, and I know that the Patriots haven't been able to do anything on offense, but I just think they're going to run. This is going to be one of those games where they just run the ball, have a couple of turnovers, and they win ugly. Now, I will say this. The way the Giants moved the ball on occasion versus the Commanders last week, if that same offense shows up this week, I think that I'll be flipping over to your side of the street because there were some good chunk plays there.
Yeah.
Saquon was playing well. And to your point, the Patriots defense has given up some bigger plays. Has given up some bigger plays over the last few weeks. So, again, something to think about. Joel wrote a comment in that I wanted to kind of finish the show off, Steve. He said, do you think Brian Daboll knowing the Patriot system will make it harder? I mean, for me, I would say I think that when Bill has faced opposing coaches that have worked under him in some capacity, they have had an edge in some way. And I do think that Daboll has a really good offensive system. But what are your thoughts about Daboll versus Belichick in this specific matchup? And happy Thanksgiving to you, Joel, by the way.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving, Joel. Love the videos. Keep them coming. I don't think it makes that big a difference anymore. I mean, Daboll's been gone for a while. Yes, he does know the system. He knows what they like to run, but I don't think it's a secret of what the Patriots like to do right now. So I don't think it's that big of an advantage anymore for him. It comes down to execution, and who's going to execute better. So,
yeah, no, I agree.
Joel thinks the Patriots win 17-16.
I saw that. I was going to share that. And by the way, our segment earlier talking about what the kind of prediction was for the Patriots for the rest of the season came from Chris over Twitter. So I want to give Chris a shout out. And again, I want to say happy Thanksgiving to everyone who's listening. The show we're recording right now, it is 8 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday, November 22nd. Tomorrow is Thanksgiving. Russ Goldman just sent us a message while we were starting the show that he's going to post it tomorrow. So we will have the show posted on Thanksgiving. So, we'll have our show out for the week. And the next week, hopefully we'll get to our regularly scheduled time or close to it.
Certainly tell Russ to get in the booth and get it up.
Yeah. Come on, Russ. You heard it from Steve. All right.
Just kidding, Russ.
I think that
I know he has his daughter home tonight. So
yeah, I know he's got the whole family back. So happy Thanksgiving to the Goldmans and the Logues and everyone here with the Patriots 4th and 2. Again, please subscribe to us, leave us a review, like, share. Message it with your friends. Please, we're trying to get more followers. We've had a ton of really good group participation lately. Tonight was much slower, but we are doing it at a very abnormal time. So I kind of
the night before Thanksgiving. So
yeah, and people are out having a good time. So hope everyone listening has a fun, safe holiday, long weekend. Steve, we'll be talking soon, and we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for listening.